Well, I could. It depends what you want to do. I like to show like there's a little arcade game that I bring people into, and I like explain shit. Where
Yeah, sure.
the hell is it?
I played one arcade game. What is it called? Strike something like Dead Strike or something.
Oh yeah, Direct Strike. Yeah, that's the good one.
But I don't know much, by the way. So you gotta actually tell me what.
Well, yeah, that's what this is. It just lets me make everything at once and show you all the abilities and the upgrades and whatnot. It's better than having to like redo.
Okay.
Lot less restarting. And this is something you can play with too, on and off if you want to. You don't have to touch any pretty buttons. I'll go through the mess. There we go. So this is Unit Tester. So it just shows you the list of units. For right now, I'll kind of like go over all the mechanics of each race. And then if you're curious about more than like let's say you like Protoss more than Zerg or Terran more than Protoss or blah blah blah, I'll go and focus on that race more specifically, and then we'll just go from there. But for right now, I'll just stick with Protoss, I should say. Let me clear him and get the blue one.
Sure.
I'll start with the probe. So I'm going to make some of the buildings, and this is what the mechanics of Protoss are. And they're going to be different from the other races. I don't know how much you know about the game in total, but I like to show things just so everybody knows.
So in order to understand, for example, for Terran, how does a worker look like, and how does it look like for Zerg and for Protoss? I try at least one game each, so I can understand the base, like starting, at least the worker. So yeah.
Okay, so the probe I have here is the standard worker unit. Unlike the other races, it warps stuff in, like creates a little black hole and warps the object in, such as this pylon here. It's really fast in this zone, so it'll build it basically instantly. So the gateways are your primary basic unit production. So they can make zealots, sentries, stalkers, adepts, high Templar, and dark Templar, which are their basic units in the game. The Templars are more advanced. The dark Templar is cloaked. He makes a little shimmer. You might be able to see him. He'll have a blue outline if you can see him. If not, he'll be like a little distortion. But how their mechanics work are, I build a warp prism real quick. They have a weird system because initially they produce just like Terran does out of the Terran barracks. So this would be equivalent to the Terran barracks. They can have a queue of 5 units. It takes a while for them to build, just like a Terran Marine would, for example. This changes when the cybernetic core becomes available and the warp gate research is unlocked. And you'll see as soon as it's done, they start automatically transforming into warp gates. So instead of building the unit directly from the building itself, it can warp it into any available power field. So I can warp in this zealot over here by the Nexus. And there is a difference between the power fields. So any power field that touches its power radius will touch the Nexus, for example. It warps in faster. So the pylon I have over to the far right, it's not in a field that's touching a warp gate or a Nexus. It's completely out in the middle of nowhere. So if I warp in a zealot in the teal or greenish colored one, which is touching the warp gates and the Nexus, and I make one that's not, you'll see the difference immediately. But he's still warping in.
He's like a ghost.
Yeah, so it takes him a minute to pop in, and we call that the slow pylon. It's to prevent proxy pylon play. However, the warp prism has a fast power field, just like the Nexus powered one or the warp gate powered one. So I can actually deploy it, and then I could warp in a unit directly into its power field. Of course, if I were to cancel or retransform the warp prism, it will destroy the unit warping in. The same thing if the pylon is destroyed while a bunch of units are warping in, they'll all die.
Oh. So it's like
So
you
that's-
have people inside it, and if it goes down, your people goes down too.
You think of it as like they're teleporting like in Star Trek. If the power goes off, they basically die because their particles just get scattered everywhere, or something similar to that. However, the warp prism can pick up units just like any other transport, and it can warp in and have those units inside them. So I can warp in stalkers, but if I cancel, I still have power fields there, but they would just die. Let me get rid of these. Oh, it won't let me do it. All right, I'll reset. You. I'm going to show a thingy. Make pylon. Boop. Boop. Need some gateways too, because 3 is fine. Boop. All right, so there's no thing out here. No pylon power field for it. So if I warp in and cancel, death.
So pylons are the first thing you need to actually establish everywhere. Build.
Yeah. Also, if they tend to die, I'll get a few more immortals. It's taking a minute. All Protoss buildings will shut off. So I can't produce anything from the robotics bay or the gateways anymore. However, because the warp prism is a flying pylon, basically, I can use it to turn the base back on. Protoss Mechanics 101. Well, I just got a few other things with the Nexus. So Nexus would be like your central command center.
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple, since I already warp gate research, they'll automatically deploy even without the cyber core. You can also turn it back to a gateway if you want. There's no benefit to doing this, but you can swap them back and forth. So the Nexus has a few abilities, and one of the abilities is Carno Boost, which will speed up anything that it's attached to. So upgrades, unit production, the transforming in and out of gateways, the cooldown of warp in for gateways. So it's extremely useful to use that ability. The other thing it can do is recall, which if I have these units across the other side of the map here, and let's say I'm attacking a Terran, for example, and if I hit recall, its attack's not going very well, they'll just teleport right back to the Nexus. So it's a way of saving your army from death. The other ability, I'm just going to dump some force fields from the Sentry, is energy recharge, which will give the unit 50 energy. However, it goes on a little bit of a cooldown. So it's a way of getting energy back to cast another ability, whether that be on like a High Templar or a Sentry or something like that has an energy bar. So that's basically Protoss in a nutshell for the mechanics. Any questions?
Nope. I understand that.
We'll switch to Terran. Goodbye, probe. Terran's a little bit easier to understand. They're not too terribly complicated. Lots of things. Okay. So the command center, like most Terran structures, can lift off and fly. The only structure that can't do this is like the fusion core, engineering bay, armory. They can transform into 2 different types. So there's the orbital command, and then there's the planetary fortress. The planetary fortress gives the command center a giant gun, which is very useful in riskier base placements, you can use it as a way to deter the enemy from attacking your workers. So they can't move or do anything while they're upgrading. You can cancel the upgrade. Boop. Command center upgrade. The planetary fortress takes a little bit longer to pop out. There we go. Big gun.
Then why would someone choose orbital if a planetary has a weapon that can?
The orbital has 3 abilities on it, and 2 of which are very important. The first one being scan. So I can basically reveal cloaked burrowed units. It also reveals a large area of the map for me to see. It's fairly cheap. It's about 50 energy. The command center holds 200. The other ability is Call and Mule, which is arguably one of the most broken things in Terran. The mule can harvest over the top of other SCVs. It carries more minerals than SCVs. I don't think it has any more health than SCVs. It might, actually. Yeah, it does. And it can repair. But it has a timed life, so it will expire after the little bar goes away. It'll just die. So if I were to attack this supply depot, for example, I can tell the mule to go repair it. And it can also repair flying units and mechanical units as well.
Oh.
The other ability is Call Down Supply Depot, which will give you 8 supply instantly, and also repairs about 500 health of the supply depot after a short delay. There it goes. So that's useful if you're getting supply capped or supply blocked. That's going to be extremely useful. The other thing the supply depot can do is it can lower itself into the ground, and your units can path over the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
The same with the enemy, though, so be mindful of that. It doesn't change its supply value if it's burrowed, it just is in a different state of the building. The planetary can no longer lift off the ground while it's in planetary fortress mode, so you can't change it back, it's there permanently. What else? Oh yeah. The Terran Barracks Factory and Starport can all add add-ons to them that provide different functionality, such as the reactor and the tech lab. The reactor lets you build 2 units at the same time, but because it's not a tech lab, it won't give you access to higher tiered units. In this case, it can only build Marines and Reapers, but not Ghost and Marauder for the barracks. The same thing would be for the factory. You'd only be able to build Mines and Hellions. For the starport, it would just be Vikings, Medevacs, and Liberators. Which is nice. And the fun thing about Terran stuff is they can actually pick up and swap their add-ons. So a lot of their builds utilize this mechanic that they have. It is also possible to steal opponents' add-ons. So if I get rid of the barracks, yeah, missile turn's going to blow it up. But I can take my own barracks and pop it down and steal it.
Nice.
Though this is rarely used. When a Terran structure catches on fire, it will eventually kill itself and blow up, even if it's not getting shot at by the missile turret. So it'll eventually just chew its health apart and blow up, so you have to pay attention to that as well. Boop. Next up, the bunker and the sensor tower have the ability to salvage, so you'll get a little bit of your money back on building them. So like the bunker is sometimes situational, or you'll use it for defense or offensive purpose and you no longer need it. You can just hit the salvage button, and it'll just destroy itself and give you a little bit of your money back. The same thing with the sensor tower. However, the missile tower can't do this. But the missile tower, like the photon cannon and the spore crawler, are all detectors, so they see cloaked or burrowed things. All right, that's it for Terran. Any questions on Terran?
Nope.
Okay. Last but not least, and my personal favorite, Zerg. So the Zerg work a little differently, where the Protoss can like drop and warp in a structure, where the Terran has to have the SCV physically build the structure. The Zerg have to sacrifice a worker in order to become the structure, because the structures are basically organs, if you will. So each hatchery will make about 3 larvae, and this is your production queue. So Terran Protoss have gateway barracks for their infantry units, robotics and factory for their mech units, and starport and stargate for their air units. Zerg just have larvae. The only thing that changes is they need structures to unlock the units that are available to be produced by the larvae. So if I want Zerglings and Queens, I need to have a spawning pool. If I want the evolution of the Zergling, the Baneling, I need the Baneling Nest, Roach Warren, etc. So this will keep going down the line until I have all my tech structures. Lurker Den. I'll get another drone here eventually. Boop. Spire. So the Queen has some functionalities. First off, I should probably talk about Creep. Creep makes Zerg units very fast. Units off Creep get a reduction in their speed, and the Queen is the shining example of this as she tries to tiptoe on the icky ground. So she's significantly quicker on the Creep. She has another ability called Inject Larva, and this adds 3 eggs to the hatchery, and eventually they'll pop off and give you 3 more larvae. You can have a maximum of 19, and the Queen can stack this ability, so you can constantly shift-click this onto the hatchery, and she'll constantly spray that on. And then once the bar finishes, it'll load the next charge, and it'll keep doing that until it runs out of charges. The next ability she has is, I'll do some damage to the hatchery. Transfuse, which will regenerate about 75 health and add a 50 health after a few seconds. So this is really good. However, the Queen cannot transfuse off Creep, so she loses that ability. She can also make Creep tumors, which will spread the Creep area. This is much faster because it's a custom game. It usually takes a while for the Creep to spread to that extent. Each Creep tumor can make another Creep tumor in a chain, basically. So I can send this Creep tumor out, it shoots out a tentacle, and starts production of a new Creep tumor. However, I cannot make a Creep tumor from the parent, if you will. So the child is being made now, then the child becomes a parent, makes a new child, etc. So that's just how that works. If the Creep tumor is destroyed, the Creep will reseed to wherever it was by default. So to the hatchery's natural Creep line. And they're also cloaked, or burrowed status, which is the same thing. So they can't be seen by the enemy without a detector. But also provide you vision, so that's very nice. Some of the units include Zergling, Roach, Hydra, Corruptor, Muta, etc. There's more, but I'm just showing the little ones for right now. So like I said, those structures provide evolution. So the Baneling Nest allows your basic infantry, the Zerglings, to mutate the Baneling, which they'll make a little cocoon on the battlefield and transform. The Roach Warren and the Roaches themselves do not need an additional structure. They just need layer tech, I believe. No, they don't need to require layer tech. That was an old patch. So they'll make themselves into Ravager, and then you need a Lurker Den for the Hydralisk in order to make it into a Lurker. And the Corruptor can be made into a Broodlord upon Greater Spire's completion. So they all do different things. Like the Ravager has a Corrosive Bile ability. the banelings explode, and lurkers can't attack unless they're burrowed, and they shoot in a line. And the Broodlord, when it finishes, I'll show you that one. It's a little slow. But there he goes. The Broodlord flings out little creatures called broodlings to attack the enemy. They're like an aerial siege unit, more or less. And the broodlings will expire after a short period of time. Zerg tech is like they'll evolve into hatchery and lair. So they'll go up a tier, so lair and then hatchery, which they can be morphed from the hatchery itself. But you notice they look bigger each time they evolve. But it just takes a while for the hatchery to evolve itself. So that's why I just made 2 of them. Other than that, that's Zerg mechanics. The last thing I mentioned about them is they do regenerate health slightly faster while burrowed in creep. Not by much, though. And that's Zerg.
I have questions.
Okay.
First, when the queen is injecting, like I injected once, and they are actually building it, right? Like making drone or larva.
Yeah.
Now, if I inject her like 2 to 3 times continuously, quickly,
It stacks.
It stacks.
Yeah, it stacks.
Okay. My next question is
so
larva. Yeah, go
ahead. They're about 30 seconds.
So it
says
stacks,
29,
so I don't
but
have to think or twice or something like that.
yeah, as long as you keep up. Early game, it's going to be a little annoying because the queens don't have a lot of energy. So you'll have to constantly inject them every 30 seconds or so. Like, yeah, see, they pop right off after the stack is complete. It just stores. It doesn't tell you how many stacks are on the hatchery. I wish it did. I don't try to keep a mental note of it. I just constantly inject, even if it has stacks on it already. So that way, if I'm in a big battle somewhere, I don't have to think about that hatchery's larva capacity. Because it's already getting injected periodically. I don't have to worry about it. I just know that I have larva. A way around this, if you're stuck at the injecting thing, and a lot of people aren't used to it initially, just make another hatchery. We call it a macro hatchery. And it'll make 3 larvae. So if you miss an inject, it's basically 3 larvae the mac hatch provides. And a lot of times when you get later on in skill and whatnot, I'll position the macro hatchery next to my main, and I'll just casually inject it, and then inject my main if the queen has energy. So it's just like a little back and forth. So that way you always have larva available.
Gotcha. Then I have another question. If one queen is injecting one hatchery, can another queen do that too, or no?
Yes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can have 10 queens inject a single hatchery if you want.
And it will give those many larvas then?
Up to a maximum. I don't remember what the exact amount of stacks it'll take. It's quite high, though.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever hit a stack count with them.
Okay. My next question. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Go ahead.
No, go
What's
ahead.
your question?
You were saying something. Go ahead.
I wasn't going to say anything. No, I wasn't going to say anything. I just kind of chuckled a little bit.
Okay. My next question is the one problem I had when I was playing as Zerg is how to target. Like, we have so many stuff nearby, but targeting each and every larva is so hard. Like, is there any easy
Well,
way,
you don't
or
need to target the larva. You just select the hatchery itself.
Oh,
The hatchery, when you click it, it'll give you a larva count, and then you just hit it. And in which case, I'm using grid, so it's Q for me. So I hit, like, my hatcheries are on 1, so I hit 1 Q, which will activate larva, and then my next set of hotkeys is what I want to make, like Zerglings will be E for me. And I just do that. If they're all, let me grab a worker here. So if they're all, let me make my thingies. There we go. I make 3 hatcheries to like. Oh, so if they're all in a, like, you can hold you can click it, hold shift, then click the next hatcheries, and they'll all be in a single group. And I can move the rally points around. So I can hit, in this case, Q, and let's say I want a bunch of roaches. They'll pop from each hatchery. You see that?
Oh, yeah. I see that. Okay.
So that's the way how you would deal with this issue. If I have queens, I can inject, and then my larva cap's just going to go crazy. And then you'll just have larva continuously. So you won't have to worry about it.
Oh, so what I did was I used to click on each and every larva, find the small larva and click on it, and then use the like a S or whatever, to make the Zerg
Right.
or Z.
But if you select the building, it tells you how many larvae are available, and then it will let you, if they're all in the same group, they'll tell you the maximum of larvae per the group that you have, in which case I have 9. 3 for each hatchery. So that's an easier way of doing it. Sometimes you click them individually. I've done that before. You can do it, but it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Another thing that you could do, if you're not quite used to that, is I'll use the roaches and the lings here as an example, because I just have them sitting here. Let's say I just want the roaches, but they're all in a control group. I'm moving them all around right now.
Yeah.
If I hold control and click, I'll just select the roaches. And if I control and click the larva, it'll give me all the larvae that I have within my vision of my camera. So there's a way of getting around that little issue as well.
But you actually key binding to control, and or you actually
No, this is not even.
have that
This is not key
ability?
binding.
Oh, we have
No, I'm not
that
key
ability.
binding. I'm just control clicking.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Actually, I was struggling so much. Like I want to just select the Zerg because they are so fast. They go so fast and then they die. So I was like, I want them to wait for the Quaid and other stuff to come and then go in.
Right. Because that's like the racial traits of Zerg. They're cheap, they're fast, they're very squishy.
Yeah.
They will die very quickly. They're not as tanky as Protoss units, but Protoss, because they're more tankier or have more health, they're also more expensive and slower.
Mhm.
And Terran are like a middle ground. They're kind of in the middle of that situation. They're neither too expensive or neither too tanky. But the Zerg is like one end of the extreme spectrum, and the Protoss is the other end of the extreme spectrum.
Okay.
Boop. Now, is there any units that you want to know about? Or I can go through all of them. That takes a little while. That's up to you. I don't know how much time you have.
Sure. I have time. I don't mind.
Okay. So which ones did you want to see first, or Terran or Protoss?
Doesn't matter. You can start with anything.
Let's do Terran first, because they're the standard boyos. Okay, so Terran is mostly ranged, where like Zerg is mostly melee. So Zerg want to come up and bite you in the face, Terran want to shoot you with their guns. So I'm going to use some Zerglings and Marines to show this. Submarines won, right?
Yeah.
And the main reason is that they have time to shoot the Zerglings before they get close enough. But this will go back and forth, so this is like kind of where the chess checkers and Go come in. If I give the Zerglings metabolic boost, which increases their movement speed, they'll be much quicker and can get to the Marines faster, so less of them die. Which changes the outcome.
Yeah.
But this goes back and forth even more because I can give the Marines combat shield, and I can also give them the stem ability. So now they have 10 additional health, and they also can take 10 health, but increase their fire rate and movement speed while stem is active, though I won't trigger stem right now. But you'll see that the Marine should win this with the extra health.
Yeah.
But this also goes back and forth another time, because if I take these Zerglings and I can burrow them, so they're cloaked, the enemy can't see them. But if the Zerglings are on top of the Marines, then that health advantage doesn't mean anything. But this will trade one more time as I get the Marines into a corner or in between mineral piles or something like that, and I send the Zerglings to go attack them and they activate their STEM ability. Because the Zerglings can't get us around, they're not going to do well in that fight. So there's a little bit of back and forth, and this can be applied to pretty much most of the armies. Different units, same thing, back and forth, back and forth. But it's all like upgrade based, if you will. It changes slightly. Marauders, on the other hand, are like if Marines can target air and ground, are fast shooters, right? The Marauders are more of the tanky boys, and they're very good at killing armored units like the Stalkers. They're also slower. Of course, this changes with upgrades, yet again. So I can give the Terran Concussion Shell, and I can give the Protoss Blink. So what Concussion Shell does is it slows, or temporarily slows, the target, and Blink makes the Stalkers do a short-to-range teleport. But it's highly Terran favored as well, because if I use STEM, this changes it. They lose a little health, but they also shoot faster. So, details, and my blink kind of sucked on that one, but usually you can blink out of that and not lose all the Stalkers. So there's a little bit of back and forth again for Terran. Roaches would also be considered the same in this matchup. They would still die to the Marauders. Reaper is more like a really early game harassment unit. So this one, he's kind of interesting. He can jump up and down cliffs. He has a little ability where he throws out a bomb and it knocks units back. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It takes a while to come back. However, the Reaper, if he takes damage, after out of combat, he will regenerate his own life. It'll take a second to kick in and he'll start glowing green. There you go.
That's nice.
So it's more of an early... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was to say, so you can use this like an early game hit and run to go in and kill some workers and run away. It's also used as a scout. It's not really used after the first couple minutes in the game, though. Any question about... You were going to say something. I kind of like interrupted you.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was just saying we can actually use it to interrupt workers. You know, bomb them and then they scatter.
It's very annoying, too, and they do kill workers very quickly. So it's kind of like a scary unit. So Ghost is the next one up, and this is the ground-based spellcaster for the Terran. And I'm going to use a... well, actually, let's use an Infestor. Infestor is a ground-based spellcaster for the Zerg. So the Ghost has a few abilities, and the first one is Snipe.
Oh.
Does a lot of damage. The second ability he has is Electromagnetic Pulse. This will rip energy and shields off a target. So it took half his energy off. If this was a Protoss unit, it would also rip the shields off. And everyone's favorite ability...
Nuclear launch detected.
Nuclear missile. Of course, this requires you to build a nuclear missile in a Ghost Academy.
Oh. That's actually good.
Yeah, I don't see it too often, but it does crop up. The last ability he has to be researched, and that is Cloak. So he can basically turn invisible, and they can't see him without a detector. He can also shoot while he's invisible, and there's also a hold fire option, so he won't shoot. So you can sneak into an enemy base.
He's so good.
Next up is the Hellion. And the Hellion is very good at killing light, squishy things like these Zerglings. It shoots a line attack of fire.
Like a flamethrower.
Yeah. It can be upgraded with Thermal Pre-Igniter, which is more damage, and it turns it blue. But you notice it shoots it in a line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It does have a transformation state. And I'll bring a medevac here to also show this little aspect of it. But once you get an armory, you can transform them into hell bats, which they shoot in a cone, and also considered biological. So technically, they can get repaired by SCVs and mules and get healed by medevacs at the same time. So medevac's just here to basically heal the damage.
It's good.
What's next? Siege tanks. Well, let's get more Zerglings, actually. So siege tanks have a normal attack. It's not very good. But they're not, well, known for their normal attack. They're known for their siege mode, which basically turns them into artillery. The only downside with this is... I'll up the Zergling numbers here. If they're clustered together like this, and the Zerglings attack, they can get on top of the tanks, and the tanks have a minimum fire range, so they can't exactly shoot if there's stuff on top of them. So the way you fix this is don't bunch them up together, or try not to. I know it's hard as a Terran player to not bunch them up. So if I were to attack this time, the other tanks can shoot to get the Zerglings off the tank, but instead of losing all the tanks, I would only lose one or two based on where they're positioned.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think I made too many Zerglings, but the tank still won.
Mm-hmm.
Thor, this is your big boy. This is a massive unit from the factory. This is good against air. It's also good against ground targets as well. First attack it has is the Javelin missile launcher. It does splash, targets air. I think the Mutas might actually still win this because they did mess with this ability quite a bit. It does 12 damage for light with 4 attacks. So Mutas still win, but it is kind of useful in groups. Maybe I need 2 of them for this. There we go. More damage. But yeah, more or less. The other ability it has is high impact payload, which brings the cannons on its back forward. This does a lot of damage versus massive targets like this Tempest. So it shoots a heavier cannon instead of its missiles. And last but not least, it has a ground attack that's actually pretty decent. So, late game scary unit. More or less. Next up is the Viking. So this is an air unit. It's very good at killing things like this Colossus, which is so tall it's considered an air unit. As you can see, they'll lose to the Stalkers if they're in the air. So the other thing they can do is I'll get rid of the clauses for that because I think it's cheating. They can land, and they do about 20 damage to mechanical units like these stalkers. So a battle they would normally lose, they win. And we can transform back to flyers. Kind of seen the medevac a little bit already. So it has, I can pick up units and drop them. It can heal Marines inside of them just gradually, but it has a heal beam that's mainly used for. It's much more potent than having them inside. It also has a boost function, so it flies much faster for a short period of time. Boop. Raven, this is the aerial spellcaster. So it has a few abilities. First one is anti-armor missile. This takes 2 armor off the target in a splash. Next ability it has is autocannon. Drops little guns. This can be used in harass against workers as well as helping the army out on the ground. And it has another ability called interference matrix, which disables the target unit, unable for it to attack for 11 seconds, and reloads cloaked units. However, I need to build a starport or with a tech lab to research the ability. It's not enabled in this game mode at the moment. Banshees. These are going to be annoying. You'll see them early. They're pretty devastating anti-ground targets, but they can also cloak.
Oh.
Yeah, so scary. Battle cruiser. Let's see what's a good one to use. Yeah, maybe 5 hiders might be too much. Let's do 4. So the battle cruiser itself is the big unit. It will destroy all ground targets here pretty easily. Got a lot of health. It can also teleport anywhere on the map.
Oh. That is quick.
And it also has, which I don't have research yet, but Yamato cannon.
Hello. Oh, you're playing Terran.
I'm doing coaching unit tester more specifically.
Okay.
Oh,
Is he
play chess.
is he a Terran player?
Not undecided yet.
Oh,
We don't
okay.
mind.
I am being summoned elsewhere.
Okay. So what mines have no attack on their own, unless you burrow them into the ground. Oh, they ran back. Oh, better example would be if I actually burrowed them first. If I wanted to show they didn't have attack unless you burrow them.
Oh.
They can, yeah, and they shoot air too. But they do reveal themselves once they fire their initial shot. There's an upgrade to keep them so they don't do that. Cyclones. These are another lovely Terran mech unit. This shoots air and ground. Has an ability called Lock On, and it extends the range of the weapon to 15, so you can actually run away from the target and kill them. Pretty scary. It has a really short range initially, unless you... The ability is auto-cast as well, so it'll fire automatically once it picks a target.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the benefits of the unit. And the last but not least is the Liberator for Terran. So this has a nice anti-air splash ability. Pretty almost even with 5 mutas there. So the one Liberator kind of got in there too close. The scary thing about it is the Liberator can deploy itself into siege mode. Now, it can't attack air units while in this mode, and it can't attack anything unless it's in the circle. But you can see how punishing that is.
Yeah.
The only downside is, while that ability is active,
Someone else can come and kill it.
as long as you're not anywhere near the circle, so that poor Hydralisk is going to get too close and then die. But if I get behind it... There. Problem solved. And that's Terran. Any questions about Terran units?
I have a question about one unit. Do you remember when you showed me the invisible one?
The Ghost?
Yeah. So
Or
why
the
don't
Banshee?
people... No, the one that now
The fly-
shoots in the air, flying one, yeah. Why don't
Yeah, the
people use
Ghost. The Banshee, sorry.
Yeah, the ghost.
This is used... like a normal Terran openers, they'll build a Reaper, send it across the map, and do a little bit of worker harassment. And then they'll follow that with about 4 Hellions and then 2 Banshees. So this is like an early game harassment unit. It is used with Terran mech builds, simply because it has the cloak ability and it's kind of annoying. And it does hit pretty hard.
Then I have another question. Suppose I'm Zerg and a Terran is doing that, and I know he's there and I know he's shooting. What can I do, like with my workers? Can I target him at all? Or I can't do anything about it.
There's a couple ways of getting around it, so I'll demonstrate an attack, as it were. Oh, not what I wanted to do. Oh, creep won't let me build. So let's just say I have some workers.
Mhm.
But you want to build a spore crawler relatively close to where, let's just pretend this is the resource line. And you have workers up here. So I'll pretend like this is your harvesting line. There's a bunch of minerals behind the spore crawler. So I'll put the infestor out of here in the corner for a moment. Let's just say you have a couple queens chilling. And what happens is the banshees come in, they cloak, but now the spore crawler sees them, which allows the queens to see them.
Oh, that is the solution.
And there's the other way about this is the infestor itself, as Zerg, his fungal growth ability also reveals cloaked units.
Oh.
But that only work as long as fungal is working. The other way is the cloak detection unit. Each faction has one. The Raven is cloak detection for Terran. Protoss has the Observer, which is a cloaked version of a detector. But they all three detect. So as a Zerg player, you don't get the Observer till layer tech, which is the tier 2 category. But he'll see cloaked units like Dark Templars and Ghosts and Banshees and any burrowed units as well. So he'll be helpful in that situation. Anyway, that was Terran in its entirety. I can move on to Protoss or Zerg if you want.
Yeah, sure. You can do that.
Okay. I saved the best for last. I'll do Zerg last, so we'll skip to Protoss. Zealots are a lot more tanky than the Marines and the Zerglings. Like Zerglings get 2 out of an egg. They're not a lot of health, right? The Marines only have 45 health. The Zealots have 50 shield and 100 health. But they do have to attack in close range, but because they have that Protoss shielding, And they'll attack them with their little side blades here. And to make them even more scary, because why not, we'll give them charge. And this will allow them to run towards the Marines quickly. I think there's too many Marines for this engagement, but you can kind of get the gist of it.
Yeah.
You can also chain the charge because it's kind of technically an ability. So I can charge to this zealot to get there quicker if I need to, like, chain it. Stalkers, as you already seen, they have... let me just clear gripped. Start. I want upgrades to save myself some time here. So they have blink, which they can just simply blink. You can blink up and down cliffs as long as you can see up the cliff. And a lot of times it's what we call the blink micro. If the front unit's taking damage, simply blink it behind. Let the fresh units take the damage. When they get damaged, blink it behind. That's Stalkers for you. They're the anti-armor, anti-air unit of the Protoss army. Sentries, this one gets a little bit more chaotic. This is their ground-based spellcaster. And they have, aka the Tickle Beam. Tickle Beams don't do anything. As you can see, they kind of suck. However, their strength comes in their abilities. So, Force Field can block enemy units for a short period of time. Only lasts about 11 seconds. They can be crushed by any massive unit. So that would be the Archon, the Ultralisk, Thor, the Colossus. If they step on a force field, it'll bust. So keep that in mind. The next ability they have is Guardian Shield. This will negate some incoming range damage. So against Terran, for example, or some ranged Zerg units. Or even ranged Protoss units, so they won't take as much damage while the shield is up. And that only lasts a short amount of time, too. And everyone's favorite ability, Hallucination. So I can choose from a list of units to make a fake one. It looks real. It acts real. It sounds real. It is not. It has less health than the original unit. And will puff into a giant ball of smoke, and also can be revealed as a blue unit if you have detection. I use like fake Colossus to distract my enemy. However, they don't do any damage.
Just to show them, oh, maybe it's him, who's doing the damage, but he's not actually doing anything.
Right, it looks real to the opponent, but it's completely blue to you. It's fake, 100%. And the cheaper the unit, the more of them you get, too. Like I build 4 probes off 1 cast of Hallucination. Though they don't build anything or anything, they look real. So this is a good way of getting like a Zerg player seeing a Colossus makes them go Corruptor to counter it, or a Terran player to go Viking to counter it. So they waste money trying to counter a unit that doesn't exist. It's not real.
Yeah.
It also is a nice bullet sponge as well. to absorb some incoming fire, so it makes the battles a little bit more in favor of Protoss. The Adept. This one's a early game gateway unit. This is used as your initial scouting unit as Protoss. They do disturbing amount of damage versus light. They do 22 damage, and with resonating blades, they attack faster. They have an ability called Psionic Transfer, which creates a shade of the unit, and wherever the shade goes, the Adept will eventually teleport to it.
Oh, immediate attack.
So you can use this. A lot of things I like to do with it is like I like to run into my opponent's natural base, or their second base that they build. I will cast these up the ramp and go in the main while these are killing the workers at the natural. And by the time they run down there to save their workers, I've already teleported into the main base and now killing their workers in the main. And then I teleport back down to the natural. And you can just keep doing this. It's very annoying until they die, of course. It's also a good way of getting them across the map very quickly because it only has a 7-second cooldown. Oop. High Templar. So this is the main ground spellcaster for Protoss. He has his abilities goody. First ability they has is Psionic Storm, and the most notable. So, a disgusting amount of damage. Shoots air units as well. 110 damage over 8 seconds. It hurts quite a bit. The High Templar also has a very weak attack. It's mainly there to keep him from floating towards the enemy and dying.
Mm-hmm.
The other ability he has is Feedback. So this takes, depending on the unit, the Infestor has 200 energy. This will do 0.5 damage per energy unit.
Oh.
So it basically turns the enemy's unused energy into a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is, and you can do this with either 2 High Templar or 2 Dark Templar, is Morph to Archon. So Archon is a massive unit. Like I said, it'll break those shields that the Protoss can place with the sentries.
Mm-hmm.
This is scary. It's short-ranged. It does shoot air and ground. It does 35 damage to biological, so literally everything Zerg, and some of the gateway units from Protoss and most of the Terran army. They do splash damage. They have 350 shields, so as much as a mothership.
Mm-hmm.
But they only have 10 health, so as soon as that shield is gone, they die.
Oh.
But they are very scary. I already seen the Warp Prism. The Immortal is your anti-armor big boy. Does 50 damage versus armor comparatively to like the Stalker's 14. They have a barrier ability that just activated very briefly. It negates 100 damage of incoming damage, so only for about 2 seconds though. And it takes 30 seconds or 32 seconds to recharge, so it's useful. I mean, you can attack and then back off and send an extra mortal in who hasn't activated his ability, but it's only like 2 seconds of time, so a lot of people don't bother with it. Colossus. So this is going to be your, as you can see, it can walk over the top of other units.
Mm-hmm.
It can also walk up and down cliffs. I'm going to use the Zealots as a shield, but its basic attack is this beam. It's disgusting. It does damage versus light. It's very good at killing Zerglings, Hydras, Marines, Zealots, Adepts, that kind of thing. He's very scary, but like before, he's so tall, he's actually considered an air unit. So if the enemy has anti-air up, it's probably not a good idea to get him.
And there's no friendly fire thing in this game.
There is.
Can you do that? Like when you were using the adapt to actually shield him? Can he do that?
Some abilities will do damage depending on what they are. Like, you can forcibly kill your own units. Like I can forcibly kill this one on accident. Some abilities will do damage, because all spell damage in this game ignores armor completely. For example, this Disruptor is doing spell damage. Takes a while to refresh, so I'll just reset him. I can blow up my own units, though.
Oh.
But I can't blow up itself. The Disruptor is immune to its own attack.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very situational use it. I do not recommend it. It's for more advanced usage. It's very difficult to control. The ability that it casts can be controlled like a unit, so I can move it around. Little difficult. Now, normally the Hydras would do pretty well in this situation. The Phoenix is one of the fastest air units in the game. It's a great scout. That's why we make hallucinations of it. And it can also move and shoot at the same time. But that's why it's not super cool. The super cool reason is normally the Harders would win this, but I can pick them off the ground and kill them.
That is nice. That is cool.
So they do damage versus light. And the graviton beam only lasts about 7 seconds, but it can pick basically anything off the ground except massive units, so no ultralisk floating in the air. It's pretty good. I don't really see it used too much, but it's a nice ability. Void Rays, aka Cheese Rays. They're very good versus armor. They do about 10 damage. They shoot a beam out. They shoot air and ground. They have an ability called Prismatic Alignment, which will make them slower, but ramps up their damage versus armored by 6 for about 14 seconds. So you can cancel this too, so they're not permanently slowed. So that's your basically kill all the armored things, kill all the armored air units, kill buildings. It's very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's favorite, the carrier. So the carrier itself launches interceptors. It has 8 of them in stock. They do cost money, so if they get destroyed, you'll have to spend 15 minerals and 9 seconds to replace them. It does it automatically. You can shut that off by simply right-clicking the ability if you're starved for cash. So this is one of the more devastating Protoss units. It doesn't really hurt the Ultra any, but it is scary nonetheless, especially in groups. Tempest. So this one's a little different. This is the aerial siege unit for the Protoss. He has 2 attacks. He can shoot a ground-based attack and an aerial-based attack, and he has an upgrade to do damage versus buildings, which is not enabled right now for some reason. But you can see he's got quite the range.
Mm-hmm.
And about the same, a little bit shorter range for the anti-ground weaponry, but basically the same. Next up is an early game harassment unit, the Oracle. So it has a few abilities, and the reason why I built 2 of them is they are interesting. First ability is Revelation. It puts little wards over the tops of the drone's heads, indicating where they are to the Protoss player at all times while that ability is active. It will reveal cloaked and burrowed units, and wherever those units go, I will see. So it's a really cool ability to keep tabs on the opponent. Next ability he has is Stasis Ward. So it drops a cloaked mine with time life. Any units that enter the field of it will trigger the mine's explosion. And they're basically locked in stasis. They cannot be killed, they cannot move, they cannot use any ability, they're just stuck there. So this is really good for like defense. It's also really good to disrupt the enemy's army or keep some of their units out of play for a little while.
That is actually nice. If lots of enemies are coming, people can use this.
Right. It's very nice. The most disgusting ability of this is Pulsar Beam. So Pulsar Beam does 15 damage normal and 22 damage versus light. It has to be activated. It will chew the energy up of the Oracle, but as you can see, it's well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It just kills workers very quickly. And they're very annoying to deal with because they are fast flyers as well. But they're very weak. They don't have a lot of health. They have very little shield. But if you forget to turn that ability off, it'll drain all its energy. And last big boy for the Protoss army is the Mothership. And I will use some Marines for this just to demonstrate one ability. So a Mothership is the only Tier 4 unit in the entire game. It has its own attack. It's not particularly very strong. It has a lot of health and a lot of shielding, so it's very tough. But the attacks are fairly weak. It only does 6 damage. So basically the same as a High Templar. not a lot. It has a few abilities, and the first one is Time Warp. Once activated, enemy units are slowed within its field. However, this does not affect Protoss units. So they're immune to Time Warp. next ability is Cloaking Field. So it casts a very large area underneath the mothership, will cloak units and buildings that are belonging to you, or your allies if you're playing team games.
But they can see the mothership.
Yeah. And it does this fancy little disco ball animation as it's cloaking, and it only lasts a short period of time. And last ability it has is probably the most scary ability, is wherever the mothership is, and let's say you have an army and you want to get into the enemy's base, but you can't get up his ramp or whatever, so you can just float this in and then recall units directly to the mothership. So, yeah. Scary!
Yep.
But it normally floats around with the late game Protoss army, and once you see it, it's really hard to deal with, especially because it can cloak units and basically cloak your whole army, making it really hard for the opposing player to do anything to it.
Yeah.
And that's Protoss, yay! And then, last but not least, the Zerg. So I already seen the Zergling. We'll do a little tug of war with these guys. Now, this is common in ZVZ, like right in the beginning of the game, Zergling Baneling. Now, a lot of problems people have is if I were just attack move these, you can see the mess that this is going to create there. So the way that you deal with this is the AI is stupid.
And then explode. You send the Baneling first, then the Zergling.
Well, I send the Baneling first, and I use this as a scout. And this is a Tripwalker trademarking pending 2010. You basically can scout with this because the AI will automatically rush to the closest enemy target. In this case, let's say I want to get rid of all the Zerglings, right?
Yeah.
I'll just run him up, and they'll all run toward it, and boom. No more Zerglings. They can also, which is a lot more naughty, is I can burrow them down, and I can manually detonate them underground.
Oh, that's cool.
But usually how you would deal with something like this is I can all army select or just grab select the whole army. I'm going to attack move. And remember that control click thing I showed you earlier, right? I'm going to grab all the Zerglings and run the opposite direction.
Oh.
And now I can just do this. So a huge, scary Zergling army is nothing. So that's a way of getting around it. Banelings are very good versus Zerglings, Hydras, Marines, Reapers, Ghosts. They're harder to do with Zealots and Adepts and High Templars and Dark Templars. So they kill literally all this stuff. They're very scary in that regard. They're not super cost efficient, so they're used a really early game, but it's pretty much the only answer to Mass Marine. Early game. You will see that sometimes if you're playing Zerg, you'll see they'll do like 3 racks or 3 barracks, and then you'll just start making an astronomical amount of Marines, and Banelings are a really good answer to that. Roaches, they do have some fun little traits. No, normally the Stalkers would win this engagement. But there's something a little bit scary about the Roach. Now, if I could hit the right hotkey, that'd be great. Not only can they burrow like all other ground units, the Roach can rapidly regenerate its health while burrowed.
Oh.
And not only that, if you research tunneling claws, they can move while burrowed.
Oh, that is cool.
So I can just play whack-a-mole with them as much as I want, basically. And the Protoss can regenerate their shield, but they're not very fast at doing so. And by the time they even get 1 point of shield, I'll have my full health. So this becomes very annoying very quickly, as you can probably guess. I'm not going to play that out, but you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Hydras, they have a... Oh, it's not researched for some reason. Well, it should be researched. Oh, it's not in this, is it? They have a lunge ability that makes them run forward very briefly. And it does have a 10-second cooldown. It's kind of not very useful. I mean, very situational. I mean, this is about probably as far as they'll go in the lunge ability. For some reason, it's not active in this game mode. Because it's somewhat of a newer version, I guess. So, oh well. Details. It's not hyper useful, I'll put it that way. Not a lot of Zerg players get the research. If it did a longer range, I could see where it would be useful. Or if it increased the attack speed of the Hydras, I would see where it would be useful. Kind of like a Zerg stem. But it's not really that useful. Infestor. This is the primary spellcaster of the Zerg for the ground army, as I already seen him already a few times, but he has some nasty abilities. He can also burrow move just like the roaches. He leaves a little dirt trail. Boop. So one of the more scary abilities that he has is Neural Parasite.
Oh, he mind controls.
Yes.
That's
And you can cancel
nice.
this. He can't move while he's mind controlling, and I can cast this while burrowed. So to make this even better, Zerg units are squishy, right?
Yeah.
So how we solve this problem is let's not make Zerg units, let's make Protoss units, because I think Protoss units are better. It's hard to do with SEVs because you have to chain them. But Protoss you can get away with.
Oh, nice.
He's got a few more abilities. I might need 2 infestors for this because of energy reasons.
For how long can you mind control? Or can you just...
It only
continuously
lasts 11 seconds, and I usually mind control priority units that are like tier 3, like carriers or Thors or mother. I don't think you can control the mothership anymore. I think they removed that. But I would go for carriers, Colossus, Thors, siege tanks, stuff that provide a lot of damage very quickly. And you don't care if they die because they're not yours.
Yeah.
So little details. I'll put the Marines on hold position because it doesn't matter. They can stay up. So basically, I can cast Fungal Growth. But it slows them down, does a little bit of damage. I can cast this a couple times. They'll eventually die. There we go. So it does take about 2 infestors to get rid of 10 Marines if you hit the fungals perfectly. The next ability it has, and it's not going to be of much use here, is Microbial Shroud. And what this does is negate 50% of incoming range damage over the targets that it casts. It used to stick to targets that were just outside the area, but it doesn't do that anymore. Balancing reasons. Queens, as you already seen them. Overlords! So Overlords can pick up and drop units if you get the Drop a Lord ability, or I like to call him the Chubby Lord because he gets real fat. Chubby Lord! It's also cute. There's a cute artwork that you can look up that's a Chubby Overlord. It's just adorable. It reminds me of that a little bit. Chubby Lord! So you can pick up units. They
Overloads
go ahead.
a supply depot, right?
Yeah, it's also a supply depot, just like the pylon and just like the supply depot for the Terrans. So it does hurt if they die, but they make nice aerial scouts, and you'll build a lot of them typically. So they both drop creep, which is an ability you can automatically acquire once Slayer is active. You could do this to deny enemy expansions, except if they're Zerg, obviously. You can also build structures on this creep. However, if the Overlord is killed or he stops generating creep, it'll reseed. A lot of times I'll put him in a opponent's expansion and put him on hold position. This will let me know, because he'll stay there till he dies, basically on hold position. So if I'll get my Overlords under attack, and I'll be like, oh, he's expanding. So if he kills the Overlord, it'll stop the creep drop, and then he has to wait for the creep to recede before he can expand. So this gives me time to react to the opponent's expansion. Not used a lot, but it is used. Their evolution, they can both evolve to Overseer, which is this guy with all the little eyes on him. He has an ability called Oversight. This increases its vision to 13. He cannot move while in Oversight. So it's a nice little ability if you want to see a little bit more in a given situation. He also can drop a Changeling, which I need to, like, I'll build a barracks here, for example, or a command center. But so his little squishy ball looks like a creep tumor. When he gets close to an enemy, oh, it's not even an enemy structure. My bad. Crap, you built the wrong color. There we go. Okay. So it went into a Zergling, but it should go to a Marine, technically. There it goes. So you can also tell that the opposing player has combat shield research because he has the shield and his health is 55. So it will display the upgrades of the opposing team. In this case, if it's a Zerg enemy, it will go into a Zergling. If it's a Protoss, it will go into a Zealot. They last for a short period of time. They're mainly used for scouting. However, you can put these on hold position, and the enemy has to path around them. So if I use an SCV, for example, he can't get by. He has to worm himself around the units, which can disrupt the enemy army. Another nasty little thing that they can do. Oh. Used to be able to do this. Oh, there it goes.
Blowing each other up.
I can use... They turn into... They're technically my units, but when they hit the ground, they transform. In that split second, I can get the tanks to shoot themselves. So it's kind of a way of getting free damage off a unit that's kind of useless. They do have one more ability. And this is mainly used against production structures, but you can use it on research structures as well, is Contaminate. And it will stop units being able to be produced or upgrades from the structure for 21 seconds. So this can be highly disrupted. I usually use this when I'm invading an enemy base and I don't want reinforcements to interfere. I just cast this over the top, and then it'll basically keep that structure. Of course, they can fly with this on. It doesn't change their ability to move. It just stops units production or upgrades. Muta. Use some Marauders because they don't shoot up. They have rapid regeneration, just like the Roach. While out of combat, they will heal. Very similar to like the Reaper as well. Their attacks bounce. So they'll ricochet basically to other targets. And this makes them very good at cleaning up groups of enemy units. Do not use them against Marines. They will all die horribly. And they're relatively expensive. So I use them as base raiders. Go and pop off add-ons from Terran buildings. Destroy pylons. Get rid of workers. Be a nuisance, basically. They're very fast as well. Corruptors are the anti-armor unit for aerial for the Zerg. They also have a... nasty little ability that I love. And this is called Caustic Spray. And this basically starts ramping up. It does more damage the longer that the Corruptor is doing this to the structure, and it can even do this if the building lifts off. Though they could probably just shoot it with their normal attack when it's in the air, but details. Bird Lord, aka the GG Lord. These are pretty scary. Hence why we call it the GG Lord. death. Of course, it's very weak to anything that can fly and thus shoot it from the ground without being killed by the broodlings. Ultras, basically your living battering ram. They're very good at killing mass units. They do splash on attack. They have a speed and an armor upgrade. The armor upgrade is extremely important to its survival. Speed, not so much, but it is recommended that you get it. They're also immune to mind control, stun, or any snare effects, so you can use them to clear up those cloaked mines from Protoss, etc. Swarm host. So this is a hit and run unit. It's kind of interesting. It shoots off locusts, 2 per swarm host. They will fly. They cannot target aerial units, however, but they can swoop down to the normal locust. They have a very fast rate of fire, but a very short attack range, only 3. So this is a, like, fling them up into the enemy base type of thing, fling them at the enemy's expansions, maybe poke at the enemy army a little bit and run away. They can cast that ability while they're burrowed. Other than that, they have no other attack. They're also extremely expensive in terms of resources. Only 5 here. And it's using 15 supply, almost 375 gas. But they do have their usage, but they're probably the least used Zerg unit. Viper. This is the aerial spellcaster of the Zerg. It has a few functions. Boo-doo-doo. So one of the abilities is called, I'm going to put these on hold position because I know they'll fly away. Parasitic Bomb. This takes a little bit of a delay, but will do AoE damage, and wherever the unit that's attached to, it will follow or stay attached to it. So, damaging. Very useful against air targets. The next ability has its Consume. They will strip health off a building to replenish their own energy. Do be mindful of this. They can kill your structures.
Do they do this automatically, or do we have to actually do it?
You have to activate it. I sometimes I use them on, like, your gas geysers will eventually deplete, and I use it on that. Or you can use them on evolution chambers because they have they're easy to build. They're quick. They have a decent health pool. So a lot of times Zerg will build like 2 evo chambers in the middle of the map and use it that way. He does have a few more abilities. First one is Abduct. I can pull the tank towards me. I can also grab my own units as well. We used to flick Ultralisk up into the cliffs of our enemy base, but they removed that little ability. It was a little overpowered.
Yeah.
The last ability that it has, and it's probably one of the more useful abilities. Now, the siege tank can't shoot unless units come within range, right?
Yeah.
I can't abduct the siege tank, unfortunately. They removed that recently as a balancing concern. This is called Blinding Cloud, so it basically reduces the unit's attack to 1. And since the siege tank can't shoot within a range of 1, it allows the Zerglings to get on top of it. So it's a good way of denying their usage in battle.
Mhm.
Not so useful versus Protoss, but it's more useful versus Terran. Ravager. So this is your... let's not use them. That might hurt. Let's use... I'll use a single Thor as a target practice dummy. There's Corrosive Bile. Can be launched, and they're not armored like roaches, but they do evolve from roaches. The Corrosive Bile can target, or, I mean, you can cast it and hit your own units, so be very careful. It's very powerful. Does about 60 damage. It can target air units as well. for that corrosive bile ability. So I can get rid of this medevac if it's just sitting there straight.
Mhm.
So this is a nice early air answer or anti-air answer, though it's very difficult to land a shot. So keep that in mind. You can get rid of early air units like oracles or void rays, medevacs, but it's so hard to hit the target if it's moving. You kind of have to like lead with it a little bit. I can't do it while burrowed. And I saved the best unit for last. The Lurker. This is a Hydra evolution. It can only attack while burrowed.
Oh, that is nice. That is so good. Enemies won't know to hit them.
Dead quickly. Downside is since they can only attack while burrowed, they do get in a lot of situations where they got to run away. You can also hold fire stance on them just like the Terran Ghost. Will not attack until you tell them to do so. I don't recommend doing this unless you're doing something sneaky. I should show the last one, but it's not technically a unit, but I do kind of use it as such. It's more of a Zerg super weapon, if you will. A Nidus Canal. I'll use the Queen as a demonstration because I can make her quickly. Units can go into the Nidus network. And then the Nidus network itself can spawn a Nidus worm. It can make multiple worms. It's on a little bit of a cooldown. Wherever the worm emerges, it'll pop out, scream, create a creep field, and then you can take the units out of that network from the worm's mouth. So this allows you to get units in behind the enemy's line. Also is that scream, because it's technically a super weapon, can be heard by your opponent as well all over the map, is a nice fear factor that the unit, the building rather has. So a lot of times you can just spam these out and go nuts with it. But they can see it, that animation of it unburrowing. So they do have time to kill it before it basically pops. So that's Zerg. So you've seen everything that I have to show. The only thing I have to show left is the army compositions. And that would conclude this little showcase, if you will. And I can do other stuff after this, but I like to show this first so you get an idea of what you want to do or what race you want to go. So there's about 4 builds per faction, and they're all kind of mirror of each other in a way. So you'll hear terms like bio, mech, sky. Those are basically these armies. And I won't drop the observer thing because it's a little easier to see from here. But Zerg, Zergling, Baneling, Mutalisk is going to be a core. Marine Marauder Medevac is the core for the Terran army. So this is bio, technically. They counter each other. And I say it's the core because the army is mainly consisted of these units in the bio buildup. Marine Marauder Medevac, or MMM, is widely used by Terrans if they're going bio. The same thing with the Zerg, the Ling Bling Muta, as we like to call it. Banelings kill Marines. Marauders tank for the Banelings. Marines kill the Mutas. Marauders kill the Banelings. Mutas kill the Medevacs. Kind of back and forth. The Protoss equivalent to this would be Zealot, Stalker, Sentry, and this is sometimes accompanied with Adepts. But that would be their bio ball, if you will. So the same thing as before. The Adepts kill Marines very easy. The Zealots kill Marauders very easy. The Stalkers will destroy Medevacs, and a lot of times Sentries won't be involved, but sometimes they are. They're just there as a unit that can be thrown in there, basically. So each one of these armies, you will have support units attached to them that you'll kind of see all the time. For Terran, it's siege tanks. It's pretty much a given. For Zerg, you will see Infestors will be added to this as their spellcasters. Terran can go either Ghost or Raven for their spellcaster, depending on which way they want to go. Usually it's a Raven or a couple Ravens. From there, it evolves into the more late game stuff with Zerg. So that's depending on which way he goes. He could go to Corruptor or Broodlord, or he could go into Ultralisk, depending on which way. Normally they go Ultralisk. But the full extent of this army is all these units will be involved at some point, more or less. The Terran will get Widow Mines and can also get Hellbats if they want, and then finally Liberators. So these are the full extents of both the Bio Balls, if you will. The reason is very simple, it's the upgrades. So you have Infantry Weapons 1 and Armor 1, which will go all the way up to 3. The same with the Zerg. They'll go melee and armor all the way up to 3. And that's basically what this is. These armies are revolved around those 2 upgrades for each side. The Broodlings, when they're fired out, even though they hit the target as an air weapon, they have melee attacks. So they benefit from the Zergling Baneling upgrades. And so does the Ultralisk. So that's why they're a vault in that ball. The same thing with all the units over here, excluding the mech units and the air units. They have their own upgrades. But it's mainly going to be mass amounts of Zerglings, Banelings, mass amounts of Marines and Marauders, more so on the Marine side of things. The other units get trickled in, but they're not always there. So you might not see Hellbat, you might not see Widowmine, but you will see Tank or Liberator or both. So same thing with the Protoss army. It's for their bio. Next is mech, and Terran's a shining example. Is literally everything that's a tank or some sort of machinery. That's all mech, excluding the Vikings here. Well, technically they are because they can land, so I'll leave them in there. So Hellbat, Hellion is the same thing because they transform. Siege tank, Cyclones, Widow Mines, and then the landed form of Viking, if you will. All mech, which would be equivalent to the Protoss mech army, which is usually Mass Blink Stalker, Immortals, Colossus, Disruptors. So, mech versus mech, basically. Zerg mech is, technically they're all bio, there is no mech unit for Zerg, is everything that benefits from missile upgrades. So that would be the Roach, the Ravager, the Hydra, the Lurker, and Stormhost. More or less. Sky. Everything that flies shouldn't be very hard to figure that one out. Medivacs, Ravens, Banshees, Battle Cruisers, Liberators. For Zerg, it's Muta, Corruptor, Broodlord, Viper. More or less. They're not going to do too well against all the Battle Cruisers. Protoss Sky is the most powerful in the entire game. Observers, Phoenix, Void Ray, Carriers, Tempest, Oracles, and finally Mama. So seeing this come at your base fully cloaked is a scary nightmare. But that's all the armies. So each race does have a kind of a time in the game where they're beneficial. So Zerg and Terran are really good early game. Terran and Protoss are good mid game. Protoss and Zerg are good late game. So Protoss doesn't really have an early game. They're kind of really weak during that time frame, and can be killed fairly easy at the start of the game if they're not paying attention or they're not doing what they should be doing. So that's not like the only downside. Protoss is easier to use in that respect as well, because it's a lot easier to deal with their stuff. Their units are tankier. Terran focuses heavily on micro, which is the control of just a few units, and Zerg is more so on macro, which is base building, workers, spreading a creep, etc.
Okay.
Details. Any questions about any of all this? I know it's a lot of information.
Yeah, it's a lot of information.
But I don't expect you to remember everything. No one ever really does, except for like maybe a handful of people. But some people will say, "Oh, I seen Crypt do that in that thingy," and they'll do it in a game or something like that. So you'll see something that you could do, because I mean, I could probably go further on with it, but I'm not going to, because it's already like an hour 30 minutes into this as it is. But I could go like individual scenarios for each unit that you can excel at or come out of, either or. But that's it for this, unless you wanted to see something more closely.
For now, yeah, sure. We can see something like maybe tomorrow after that. Because right now,
Right, yeah.
I'm just grasping the information that I just got.
It's a little bit. We can go ahead and quit this mode. So the next step, as it were, you could play random games if you want, like if you play the versus mode or campaign, if you will. Campaign, unfortunately, is going to be a little different. It does not have the same units, abilities, even cost and build times as the main default ladder matches or versus games, or even the majority of the game as a whole is based off the ladder balance. So you might encounter something like in a Terran campaign where you have access to fire bats. Fire bats aren't a thing. Yeah, so they're just a campaign exclusive unit. The same thing with co-op. Those commanders have their own armies that are completely separated from the multiplayer side of things, as it were. So it's a little interesting. You can think of it like each game mode that you play is going to be a little bit different, but they all form around the same theme, as it were. So all the Zerg races are going to perform basically the same. All the Terrans are going to perform basically the same. Like the co-op armies, like when I said there's different army compositions, they revolve heavily around, like, one goes mech, one goes bio, one goes air, as an example. So they take those aspects and then they go from there. You can also hit, if you wanted to look something up very quickly and not have to go through the whole arcade game thing, if you hit the option menu and then hit help, and there's a complete list of Protoss, Terran, and Zerg units in the help menu. There's also the tech trees. So, and this can be accessed at any time as well. And it shows the current balance, the cost, the upgrades of each unit. Well, I don't think it shows the cost, but it does show you what their abilities are, etc. It's a nice little observer window to poke around into when you want to know something about a specific unit.
Did you say in option in observer and replay section?
If you hit F10, it'll pop up the menu as well. Just hit help, and then all the tabs under void multiplayer.
Ah, okay, yeah, I see.
So you can click each one and like discover more about the unit. It'll tell you its weaknesses and strengths. Like a Roach, for example, is weak versus Marauder, Lurkers, and Immortals, which makes sense because it's an armored unit. Strong against light, squishy things. But that has caveats to it, like a bunch of Zerglings can kill a couple Roaches very quickly. So, you know, it's good versus some units and then kind of sucky versus other in situations. But for more or less, it's going to show you kind of what their balance is. So basically everything I went over, just not as informative. So quick reference, if you will. What I like to do, I don't know if you're... So are you interested in playing the ladder?